Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, I know our energy is little low, but we make sure that this workshop is going to give you more and more insights about how to start with an idea and how to take it into a product and then how to launch your startup. So there are a lot of insights that we are going to cover. And thank you so much for being here today. And before we start the workshop, I wanted to say a few words about Wadhwani Foundation. So just wanted to know how many of you are aware of Wadhwani Foundation here. Maybe some would have visited our stall, some would have looked at our website, programs. Great. So I'll be giving you a quick update about what is this foundation all about. Okay. So Wadhwani Foundation is a high-tech organization working for social impact. So we are a not-for-profit, and our mission is to create jobs and changing lives. So how are we doing that? We are actually enabling few ecosystems, making sure that these ecosystems grow so that more employment is created. Like some of them are like entrepreneurship, skilling, government digital transformation, innovation and research. So recently we also launched Wadhwani Innovation Network, where we are tying up with top institutions where they are working towards emerging technologies like quantum computing, bioengineering, where they're filing a lot of patents, and then we are actually looking at commercializing those projects. So we are making huge investments in terms of commercializing those kind of projects from these premium institutions. So Wadhwani Foundation is not just in India, but we are there in 23 countries. We are working with the emerging economies like India, Africa, Latin America, and we are supporting a lot of entrepreneurs. If you can come to our stall, which is at booth number 4, where we are actually showcasing you our entrepreneurship programs. So why these programs are required for entrepreneurs? Firstly, it's because these are all no-cost programs. So Wadhwani Foundation doesn't charge any startup founder or any student startup who are willing to attend our programs. Second thing is, these are all in-house curated content. This is not something which is available on YouTube or something which is just downloaded for the sake of it. There are a lot of PhD scholars who are there with us in-house, who have systematically curated this complete content, and we made this content available for people like you, like people who are startup enthusiasts and people who are already startups but looking for some kind of grants and seed funding, and people who are pre-revenue but looking for growth and scale. So all these different spectrum of startups we are helping. So this is what we as a foundation are doing. So we are there at booth number 4. I want everyone to come to our booth, explore our programs, spread the word across, because these no-cost programs, even though if you are not the right audience for that program, maybe there might be your friend who might be needing that helping hand. So these programs can be benefiting them as well. You can spread the word across, you can let them know that these programs exist and they can get benefit out of them. So I'm going to introduce my colleague Amit Singh onto the stage, who will be now starting up with this session. So Amit, can you please come on stage? So he is our program consultant at Wadhwani Foundation. So he also handles the entrepreneurship at the foundation.
Thank you, Sri Harsha, for that wonderful introduction, and it's definitely a great gathering here. We expected a lot of people, but I'm sure it's a weekend and people will be coming and joining. Right. I'll try to do justice to the entire workshop come presentation that I'm going to have for the next 30-35 minutes and open up for Q&A, and let's see what we can do. Can we change the slide, please? Right. So Sri Harsha has already touched on the foundation, right? So the gentleman named Ramesh Wadhwani, Dr. Ramesh Wadhwani, he's a Padma Shri, and he started the foundation 22 years back with the whole soul purpose and mission of creating ample amount of job opportunities for developing economies, right? And we are still continuing and expanding all across the globe. We are currently present in 18 countries. So the flags that you see represent that. We have got a lot of initiatives, in fact 4 initiatives, which Sri Harsha already mentioned. I particularly belong to one of the oldest initiatives called entrepreneurship, where there are 2 important verticals. One is students who really aspire to become entrepreneur. They might have heard about doing entrepreneurship, they're just bubbling with ideas and they continue, right? So we have a lot of, programs. There's a latest program that we have launched for 14 weeks. We partner with universities, colleges, make it a credit bearing, absolutely immersive experiential learning program called IgniteX. So those of you who are from industry, who are from academia particularly and looking to partner with us, absolutely at free of cost, join us there at booth number 4, right? And that can definitely benefit all of you. The second vertical within entrepreneurship is the liftoff. So think of a rocket propulsion program. So first you ignite and then there's a liftoff, right? And we have the entire liftoff team also here along with the Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Sanjay Shah, is also present here, right? And liftoff is all for people who have registered startups. They're at stage where they really want to launch the product. Perhaps many of them have already launched their products. And very importantly, they look for, funding opportunities. So that's where this whole program is. By and large, it's also for 14 weeks. And then we try to, do the impact measurement. Okay. Can we change the next slide? Go to the next slide. Perfect. So these are the initiatives. Move to the next, please. Right. So he's Ramesh, and Ramesh started 40 plus companies. And in 1999, he exited his company called Symphony Technologies, precisely at, I think, $9.2 billion. And that's where, he also took a pledge along with Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett. It's called the Gates Buffett Giving, pledge, where he promised to donate 80% of his entire wealth, and that is what he's sticking to. Next. Right. So you might have received the brochures, and this is what we were supposed to talk about. There are some changes that I've done, and I would like to include, Sri Harsha also at certain point in time, talking about marketing and sales. But before that, let's understand what we have to do as a beginner if you're really planning to do a startup, and more importantly, we should not fail. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And therefore, we have, termed this entire workshop discussion as concept to launch. Okay, so 3 important things. One is building a winning startup idea. There's a crux, which is lean startup methodology, and how do you develop MVPs through that, minimum viable product or the first cut of products. And more importantly, the team which drives the whole, the startup. That's very important. And in fact, I see a lot of startups here, in fact. So it's always good that you go back to school and learn something, and maybe you can change, unlearn or change. Or the other way around, you can teach me better what I can do, for my next presentation. Can we change the slide, please? Change the slide. Okay, so very simple. If you have to talk about a winning idea, right, as somewhere I read, and it's always quoted multiple times, right, that late Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani said that ideas merely have no value, right, it's all about execution. So it's very important that what is more important is execution. But yes, it's also important that you look for an idea, look for a problem. I'll be using synonymously both the terms, although there's a wide difference between the two. In the journey of entrepreneurship, we have to be very clear that entrepreneurs actually identify a problem. That is the first thing. A problem which could be very simple, right? But there is a solution that requires satisfaction to its customers, satisfaction to people who are facing that problem very severely. And then the methodology begins, how you create the whole solution and make it a right product, right fit for them, and then take it at large, right? Because if you don't do that, whatever comes on your mind or whatever you have done, it merely becomes a business concept. It's a hypothesis, okay? So as startup founders at the beginning, for the first few months, you actually try to validate that hypothesis. So problem identification becomes the first step, okay? And then of course, going forward, you do a market research, and I'll talk more about that because the next slide will take you through that. You evaluate your competition, right, and then you validate your idea, okay? Can we move to the next slide, please? Right. The lean startup methodology, if you look at, is all about building, measuring, and learning, okay? So you build something, create a product, take a particular product outside to 10, 15, 20, 100, 1,000, 10,000 users and see what the feedback is coming, right? And that is what is your measurement. Go and rebuild it. Once you're confident that yes, there is an acceptance, go out and create your GTM, which is go-to-market strategy, and launch. That's what most startups do. So platforms like these become a big hub for them to attract customers or potential clients to interact with them, understand them, show them the product, and do this. In fact, most of you are perhaps for this, right? Yeah. Next slide. Okay, so now you have understood this whole concept. Let's dig deeper into these, and of course the upcoming the slides will talk more about that. As I mentioned, we have to start with problem identification. You identify a problem, then the second step that you have to do is validate the problem. The first level of problem validation that most of you would have done or you're about to do is do something called a secondary research. Simply Google it. Look for research and market kind of sites. What is exactly happening? Because a lot of companies would have done some kind of research, and that gives you enough confidence that yes, it's a pain point and there are a lot of people, a lot of companies, clients are actually facing this problem. Okay? But that is what you have done sitting in a room, but you're really not sure. So you have to go out and check it. Create closed groups. Discuss, create some surveys, very easy to use, a lot of tools today to get some data, though it may not be the best approach, but it could be the first approach. So create a form, SurveyMonkey, not very heavy, and ask very relevant questions, all questions pertaining to the fact that the problem that you're solving is really worth solving, right? It could be 8 questions, it could be 10 questions, you do it. Okay, and once you have collected that data, then actually go and visit them, conduct real interviews with them, understand them, record that. Unless you do this, this will be very difficult. And the process of doing this entire problem validation will differ from sector to sector, okay? If it is a college kind of startup where you're setting up a canteen, it could be in a very controlled environment and you know your customers and you can earn some money and it's very easy. But if you have to do something in the field of, let's say, electric vehicles, it will be very different, okay? Because already you have the conventional vehicles available and you're trying to create a positioning in the entire space that all these people, A and B, who have not purchased vehicles should move towards, electric vehicle. So what will be the value proposition that you would actually give? Maybe in terms of pricing, in terms of, so you can't tell everybody saying that, because petrol is bad or diesel is bad, let's switch to electricity, right? It's very hard for you to convince. While we have sustainable development, goals with us and we are working towards it, but it's important also that are you providing this entire product seamlessly? So there is a feasibility around it. That's very important. So that kind of research from a college cafe, canteen kind of company to an electric vehicle will differ. The third one is, of course, once you are sure that yes, maybe 70 to 80%, I will at least, as a person, I will say that whatever you have done the research and 70 to 80% of the feedback that you have got is towards, saying that the problem is really worth solving, then actually go out and create your customer persona. Understand what your customer looks like, how your customer is placed, okay? That's very important. And when you start doing that, the fundamental thing at the beginning, which is very valuable for each of you, will be to do something called market sizing. Because as startups, what you have is a team, which I may call it as a strong team at the moment. But very importantly, you have passion, you have some technology, you have some experience, maybe good experience, right? And a little bit of networking, and nothing beyond that. You may have a little capital as well, okay? But not beyond that. So what you require is a good market sizing to understand, to convince yourself and to convince your upcoming stakeholders, which will include not only your customers, but at certain point in time, the investors who are going to support you and take you, forward. So do all your TAM, SAM, SOM calculation, total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, right? Serviceable obtainable market, where you can actually do that. And why we have to do it's very important, as I said, because startups have limited resources, okay? And most of you would be having limited resources in many manners, right? So then in that case, you need to focus on a specific target audience, a specific customer persona, a specific customer segment, which can actually buy your product, not only just buy your product, they should actually love your product, give you good feedback, which can create a base for you to have that lift off in your life. That's very important. So that's where, customer and market comes into play, and this has a sequence. Some of you may argue with me, can I just, do a simple research, but I know my product is really good, my idea is very good. At the beginning, I said both problem and ideas are different. Idea, according to me, is a solution. So don't fall in love with your solution. It's true, okay? You might be correct because you have a lot of experience, but go and get it validated, okay? Also, you validate to the point that the product could be really good, but are people buying that? That's very important, okay? So we'll talk about all those Google Glass failures and many other such products, right? So this is very important. And then comes the stage of solutioning. And when we say solutioning, it entails not just designing the solution, but coming up with process of several ideas that how we can actually do solutioning. Maybe we can put a word called ideation. Okay, do a lot of brainstorming, discuss with your team, with all your feedback, and then come up with a very nice, offering. And that's where we use a framework called value proposition canvas. So those of you who are absolutely new to this term, you can just note down, because this is a workshop as well. We call it as value proposition canvas. It's a one-sheet document, okay? It has got two parts to it, and it's a copyright, so just don't fiddle with that. It helps all the budding entrepreneurs, in fact, and maybe corporates who are actually trying to diversify their products, to actually have a clear feedback right at the beginning that who your customer is, what the customer pain points, jobs, and the customer actually wants, gets delighted, to be mapped with what you want to offer. So if there are pains which are very important, and if there are jobs to be done which are required by the customer to be fulfilled, you have to come up with pain relievers, you have to come up with exact product or service that will satisfy them. And in today's world, satisfaction is just a bare minimum benchmark. In fact, it shouldn't be a benchmark. So there has to be a delight, okay? So there has to be gain creators. If you have enough gain creators, it will be good. And it's a very dynamic document, okay? So keep using it every 10 days, every 15 days, every 1 month. Change it and see. Why will you change? Because you have taken feedback. At this point, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to do something called problem-solution fit. We are establishing that the problem and the solution are actually fitting, okay, to each other. We have not even discussed about how the product shape is going to look like. So this is very important. Sometimes you might have heard people or investors saying that this is a solution, but actually it's looking for a problem. And if a solution is looking for a problem, which actually means that we don't know who the customer is. We don't know where the customer is found. Are they all found on Instagram or Facebook, okay, or on YouTube? I don't know. And how we will communicate, okay? That is very important. So think about it. Moving on, once we have decided that yes, this could be the best solution, and there is never a best solution. Best is only because you have limited resources based on your intelligence, knowledge, survey, and whatever you have gathered, you have created a solution. It's by and large solving, you know, the jobs to be done kind of, you know, pain point that we have for the customers. Okay. If you have decided, then you definitely go for articulating how your product is going to look like. That's where product development strategies come into existence. There's a whole process, and the product development strategy will also come from identifying the customer, visiting them, creating a persona for them. So if all your customers look like, you know, 35 years age, and they are all professionals, they live in a city like Delhi, and they commute, right, this is a kind of eating habit, this is their buying habit, you can gather a lot of insights, okay? Such data are also sometimes available. Maybe you can do partnerships, okay? So that leads to a point called branding. So maybe you may have a question, when is branding introduced? Is it only specifically related to the topic called marketing and sales? And Sri Harsha is definitely going to point out, my says right from the beginning you have to brand. And brand will entail your whole idea, your whole concept, your company's logo, your punchline, what you're communicating, what you're dressing, how your website looks like, what kind of vendors you're partnering with, are they really good, reputable, everything matters. Because the next client who is going to speak with you might definitely require, okay? So that's where you do the whole product development, and it can be within 1 month or it could be sometimes 3 years. That's up to you. What next? Do you immediately start selling it? No, you do a lot of alpha, beta testing within your organization, a small group of people and, you know, real customers, and who all are those potential clients, the one with whom you validated your problem, you know, at the beginning, right? Go out, reach out to them. It's important. And maybe 8 of the 10 times, they might not come to you, but you have to persevere. That's how it is, okay? So do the problem validation, get the feedback. If you've come up with an app, talk about the features of app. More importantly, is it solving the problem? If it is not solving the problem, then I'm sorry, it's not working. So how do you understand this whole thing? There's one thing which is very important in the product development stage. There's something called user journey. If Google or let's say Amazon, right, so Amazon's Alexa, if I'm correct, yes, and Google Home, these are the products not just for you and me, it's for everywhere. It's for everybody, right, present everywhere. So thousands and thousands of user journeys will be created, right? Different kind of people will try to use that for different purposes, okay? And then they will understand at what stage they are stuck, the users are stuck, right? That's where the product development team will have to focus on correcting it, making it the right solution, right product. So you do the product validation with these stages, and if you're convinced, then obviously think of the whole business model, because end of the day, even if you do philanthropy, even if you don't do philanthropy, you'll have to create a value. So entrepreneurs create value for society. If you buy a cup of tea, there is a value, because you cannot buy that cup of tea. A, B, sometimes you need a cup of tea here, right? And you cannot cook, so there should be an availability. Think in that manner. So there is a value, okay? Sometimes there is not the value in the actual product that you see, but there's a value around it. You go to Starbucks and you may not like the Starbucks coffee, I'm so sorry, and you pay 400, but you are not paying 400 rupees for that, but you wanted an amazing, beautiful place, very silent and nice, and you want to do work, and you wanted to have a meeting, which is very important for you, that's a great place for you. And you're paying actually for that, so think about it. And what I discussed just now is the value proposition. So there is a difference in the solution and value proposition also. End of the day, as entrepreneurs, you will have to talk about value proposition. Okay? Now, business model. So, what money are you going to get? End of the day. What is your revenue model? Right? And it should be really big. How, at what stages it will go? So there are several business models, they have come up. You think of Ola and Uber kind of, business models. It's an aggregator business model because they don't own any vehicles perhaps, right? Meru and I think Blue taxis, what I've heard that they're actually buying taxis. Now there's a heavy investment because they have identified some problem in Ola and Uber because drivers usually don't take through their usual routine, through their app. But fundamentally, these two companies are very big companies and they have solved a very big problem. They've solved a problem of somebody, going from point A to point B at any point in time, right, with a lot of safety. And at the same time, you don't want to hassle yourself with the problem of, debating with the driver and getting yourself stuck in that quarrel or, fight. So there's a premium charged, that's very important. So think about it. If you're solving that, it's something, a good thing. Now, what is the value that is getting created? A value that we'll get from the customer and the feedback, plus there are enough job opportunities for the drivers to come back. And you see the whole ecosystem. That's why when Nano failed, and I'm sure everybody knows this, over a period of time, Ratan Tata invested most of his Nano, an entire Nano with, partnered with, Ola, and you would have seen. So any driver can actually buy the whole car, right, at 7 years, for 7 years. There is an insurance, and he can have family sustaining wages, which otherwise that same driver was earning by running an auto rickshaw where the whole entire, his life was problematic, okay? So what he was earning 15,000 rupees, now maybe he's earning 35 to 40,000 rupees, and he's sitting in an air conditioner car and he's giving a very good life to his children, to his family, because he can, buy good health, buy good education for the entire family, right? And that's how it is. So think of it. So there is a value creation. Coming to the next part is, of course, marketing and sales, right? And as I said, branding, the whole concept of marketing and sales also come from the beginning, right? When you're doing your market research, it's a part of marketing. And you put everything in a process plan. Sales is just one way to immediately, communicate, create a whole plan to communicate with the customers, find the customers, and how you can actually reach out to your customers, right? Then, of course, at the end, you take feedback because you've created the product, intensive feedback, and what you see, lot of rating systems, right, and you get 3 or 4 or something, right? We call it as NPS, Net Promoter Score at the end, okay? I'll not get into the detail. And if somebody has given 4 or 5, definitely, they're doing, the entrepreneurs are doing something good, okay? So entrepreneurs will always expect between 4 and 5, and obviously at the end, 5. So take customer feedbacks, right? And then once you're convinced, go out and launch. And there could be several launch strategies. But fundamentally, if you have to create a launch strategy in an Excel sheet, you need to undergo all these things. What is your problem statement? What is the value proposition? Who is your customer? Where your customer will be found? Who will be going and selling which day, right? And in this entire process, there's something called deciding the price. You'll have to actually go and decide the price, okay? And once you've decided it, then GTM actually works. And then go out and launch. Go a DPIP registration and set. The journey actually begins from there, though it has begun. So this was a pre-work. How many of you agree? How many of you don't agree? Okay, so there are many who don't agree, should I say? How many of you agree? Okay, I don't want to elicit. Okay, go to the next slide. Right. So you're exposed to this whole idea. So let me quickly take you through the lean startup methodology. Eric Ries has written a book on lean startup, right? You can actually read that. So lean startup is a methodology for developing businesses or products that aims to shorten product development cycles. So long back, go back to 40 years, the product development cycles used to be big. We know our customers because but fundamentally we didn't know the customers, and it used to take 5 years, 6 years to come up with a product. So this is actually shortening that. But you look at what is that? It rapidly discover if a proposed business model is viable. So whatever business model, is it viable or not? Okay. So will the Ola business model work? Will the aggregator model work? Because in the aggregator model, the fundamental challenge is there are human beings involved. And you have to ensure that human beings, be disciplined. You need to have policies in place. You need to have a technology platform which is seamless in place, right? Otherwise, there will be penalty. But vis-a-vis, there is a very big reward, and that's the reason people are there, okay? So think about it. And this is achieved by adopting a combination of business hypothesis-driven experimentation. So what I took you through the entire journey was right from problem validation till a point, where we did not validate. It was all a business concept. It was a startup concept. It was all on paper, okay? And that hypothesis has to be run multiple times, right? It has to be iterative, and then you do product releases and validated learning. So lean startup methodology primarily functions with an outcome of that your business model is going to be viable, and maybe you can use terms like sustainable and feasible, okay? That's what it is. Next slide, please. Right. So build, measure, learn is what I actually told you, and the circle what you see is very important. So the obstacles usually was people never thought of business model. So business model term came perhaps in 1904 because Microsoft came up with its very new product called Excel, and with Excel you can do a lot which calculators did not do. So it gave it shifted the mindset of big corporates that how they can generate big revenue using that sheet. And fundamentally they could actually understand that in future if they have to diversify or launch a new product, they could actually use it. So instead of wasting time in business making 5-year business plan or 2 years business plan, let's stick to something which can actually be tested in a boardroom, right? And obviously it had untested markets, demand, and inadequate funding. All those things was there. In the lean startup model, if you look at, right, you build and refine a minimum viable product. I'll come to that, but you build a product, you measure it, and that's what we say and there could be different measuring, metrics, number of downloads, number of installs, people who are real customers, how many of them have uninstalled your product, why, take that feedback, right? All those metrics could be at the beginning. And then learn and innovate while developing a loyal customer base. So, and this circle will continue, okay? We have time? Okay, fine. Change the slide, please. I'll skip this is a video, so no worries. Next. Agli slide mein aa jao. And the video actually, the outcome of the video is this. Very simple. So you all can, take the screenshot. Very simple. So step 1 is establish riskiest assumption, talk to potential customers, create problem solution hypothesis, then minimum viable product, do an early experimentation, define your metrics for your success, which I just mentioned, use learning and apply, build, measure, loop kind of thing, and use pivots, keep changing. You change the product, you change the environment or the customer, you change the whole process sometimes, Next. Yeah, so minimum viable product. Product is something which needs to be saleable and people should buy. So a great product is a product that solves actual problems. If it is not solving your actual problem, it's not a product. So please don't launch it, don't talk about that. It's very simple. And to deliver a great product, you need to test whether it solves those problems or not. Next. So what is a minimum viable product? It has to be viable with the business model. At the same time, it should have minimum features because you're startups. If there are 10 different problems but you fail, you see that the first 3 problems are faced by 90% of all your customers, go ahead and do that. Solve that. That's called job to be done. Okay? Next. MVPs are not meant to definitely, get your customers. They are there to get first feedback so that with the iterative process, you can actually come up with your real first version to launch. Next. Just refreshing your memory, those of you who belong to this era, 2004, this is how the first Facebook page looked like, right? It was a complete product in itself. Okay? I'll not get into the details. Next. It solved everything. Next. अगले स्लाइड में जाइए. Airbnb, right? Somebody wanted to test it. The whole apartment was there, open. Found that a lot of people are coming to join a convention like this for 3-4 days. Got a big hit. That's where it was very important. For whom? For people who want low cost stay facility at a location, not a fancy hotel. Dropbox, there's a video I'll not play. All of you know what Dropbox does, right? So Drew Huston, the founder, created a 4-minute video, posted it, right? It went viral because it actually solved that fundamental problem. That 4-minute video was very critical. MVP. Next. Startups fail. Next. Lot of reasons. These are the first prior. There is no product market fit. A product like Google Glass came in an era of 2012 and 13. Internet very poor. Security issues. You can click pictures. Likewise. So no market need. Ran out of cash, of course. Not the right team. Get out-competed. And there are cost and pricing issues. So think about it. These are the top 5 challenges because of which startups fail. Next. Next. Yeah. Next.
All right. Let's go beyond the slides now because I see you guys are so patient listening to the things that we are saying right from past 45 minutes. I could see your interest. So let's make it a little conversational. So my name is Sriharsha. I'm the marketing guy from Wadhwani Foundation. So my expertise is into GTM and demand generation. So I've been in the industry for past 15 years working under the marketing domain. So today I'll just share you a few insights, okay, from my experience with the startups, from the startup journey that I had, from the failures that I saw, okay. So how many of you have a startup idea right now?
Go back.
Something that is there in their mind. Something that is running. Great, I see a few hands, like 6-7 people who are already having some idea running in their mind. How many of you are early stage startups, like already started with something, looking for MVPs and all those stuff? Great. Now, how many of you have shared your idea to others? How many of you have shared your idea to others? So this is where your go-to market actually starts. Okay, not once you have developed a product or MVP or launching it, something like that. The moment you have one idea, you should be open to discuss. What is that one fear which is stopping you? What is that one fear? No, not failure. Someone, exactly. If I tell my idea to someone, what if they do it? What if they copy it? That's a primary fear everyone has when you're trying to discuss your idea with someone. That's why first you need to discuss your idea with someone whom you trust. Your friend who understands you, your family member who is into business, who has some good knowledge, or someone that you personally know who can actually help you in terms of evolving your idea. So what happens is when you share your idea with others, when you have the discussions with the people that you know, people that you believe, your idea will evolve. And that is the first step for a startup to even begin and succeed. So once your idea gets evolved, right, that's when you will be in a right direction. And then you start building your MVP, you start testing it, and all those stuff. How many of you know Pareto principle here? I think most of you guys know. 80% of the result comes from 20% of the effort or 20% of the customers. So you can apply it anywhere, any which way you want. So the second thing I wanted to emphasize here is, so what is, like, for example, you see a lot of stalls here, right? Since yesterday you've been going to the stalls. What are they doing? Anyone? What are they doing? Sorry? Promoting their products, okay, showcasing their products. In return, what they're looking for? Customers. Agree, everyone? They're looking for customers here? Think again. Are they looking for customers here? Investors, okay. But what is the primary thing that they're doing? They're doing a validation. Yeah, in a way, because they're interacting with people from the similar industry, different industry, understanding how they're perceiving whatever you're showcasing them, your product, right? But you're missing the most important term. What are they doing here? Marketing. Okay, yeah, they're doing marketing, of course. But what in marketing? Networking. Yes, see, networking is something which will be beneficial in a long term, but not at this moment, right? Because you start knowing, let me give you a fair example. Like, whomever you met today, right? Out of which hardly 2% you will remember. 2% are the ones whom you actually go back, again refresh their memory, interact, and do some conversations, okay? That's a sad part, because networking, someone who doesn't take it seriously, this is what's going to happen. If you really want to have a good networking, right, you have to ensure that you make that first impression, and also ensure that you reach out to them. Once you're done with the event or something, reach out to them, not with saying that I want to, please be our customer, I want to sell you something. No. Reach out to them to have conversations. First understand each other. Then comes the rest of it. Your pitch, or you want them to be your customer, or you want them as your investor. That comes later part. So the first thing that we need to do in marketing is awareness, correct? That's what we are doing here, right? We are making people who came here, who came to the stall, aware of what? Aware about your startup, aware about your product, what you have built, and then what are you doing? So you're actually communicating them about your idea, about your product, what it is doing to people. And after that, what are you doing at the stall? Sorry? Sharing contact. Okay, that's a part of it. Like, whoever coming to the stall, obviously they will tell their name and whatever it is, the business card that they have. Sorry? Exactly. Feedbacks. Correct? We are actually asking them, what do you think about this? What do you think about our product? Have you come across such kind of requirements earlier? Like, is it being catered to you? Or should we talk on this? So that's when you actually take feedbacks. When you start receiving feedbacks, right, you're actually trying to build a relationship. So then you're bringing them into conversations. And after that, your actual marketing stuff will begin. So once you create the awareness, that's when you start pitching to them, and then you start selling your product, and then you start selling your product multiple times, because now it's just not a one-time transaction, right? So you have to make sure that how many repeat customers are going to come, whether they are satisfied with the product or not. So all this stuff will come into the marketing, right? Now, specifically when you say go-to marketing, okay? So your go-to marketing begins right from the idea, and then your go-to market also begins at the stage of your, after idea again, when you're building your prototype or an MVP. That's when your go-to market again begins. So when you're building your MVP, right, don't wait for a huge set of people to validate your product. Okay. So have that quick 100 to 200 people who can actually start using your product quickly and who can give you a feedback without a bias. That is very important. You can't entertain bias when you are actually testing your MVP. No way. Because the moment you do that, they say that most of the startups fail, right? That begins here. Because when you take biased feedback, right, you go to your mom and say that, Mom, see, look at this MVP I have built. You do this, it will happen. This will happen. Your mom says, oh, my son is like working day and night all along to work on this. She will say, Beta, this is very good. Excellent. You keep doing it. But will that feedback work? That biased feedback doesn't work. So you have to make sure that you're taking an unbiased feedback, and then you go back to your MVP, you start tweaking it. You keep making it better. Okay? Now, let's say 3 to 4 times you have fixed your MVP and all. Then you will actually go and launch it in the market? Again, a question. No? You won't do that. Any reason why you won't do that? Okay, you want to keep it in the loop of feedback loop, right? You want to again go back and check whether what is the feedback and all. Okay, that is one part. Feedback mechanism is one part, but there is one more important thing. Why are you actually coming into the startup and doing all this stuff? For what? What do you want to do with a startup? Money. Come on, the lady there, she got it. Money, right? Revenue. So you need to see that early revenue, right? Your MVP people, who are the 200 people whom you are testing, should actually be able to pay you some premium for that immediate product that you are showcasing them. That's when you realize that, okay, whatever MVP that I have built, including the feedbacks that we take, if they are paying you some premium for it, then it becomes viable and can be taken into the next phase. So now, after that, when you launch, and then more people are actually using your product, and then they're coming back to you again, and then trying to again get more of your product, and it is going on repeatedly, that's where you're going to see your product market fit. That means your product is being accepted. Okay, now your product is accepted. Are you happy as a startup? Not happy. You're not happy because you have a product market fit but still not happy. Great. She wants more revenue. That's what startup is for, right? Are you just wanted to have some lakhs of rupees in the bank account every month coming in? That's it? That's a startup? No, right? You have to scale. So how many of you see Shark Tank? See Shark Tank, like so many people seeing it. That's good because in recent times, if the entrepreneur knowledge or a startup knowledge has spread so wide, it's because of Shark Tank. We have to agree for that. And there in Shark Tank, if you see, most of the time they talk about the founder teams, they talk about your idea, they talk about the product, and then they talk about scale. Investors talk about how soon you're going to scale and how soon I'm going to get my returns. What is my exit strategy? When I'm going to exit, in which way? What is your strategy for that? So this is what they look for. So once you have a product market fit, you keep innovating, adding new features, using new technologies that are there and try to leverage them and making your product even more better. So that's where people will actually not only just like your product, they keep repeatedly buying it, and also they will spread that news across through the word of mouth. They say that, hey, if someone else is using a different product, they go to them and say that, hey, see, look, I'm using this from quite some time. These guys have come up with so many iterations and they've included so many features. Why don't you go and use it? So you'll endorse it. And that's when that person will switch to this and try to explore. And that's where you will increase your customer base. So again, one more hack I wanted to give you for go-to-market, and then I sign off, okay? So is that okay, or should I sign off right away? Am I giving any value to you guys? You feel so? Great. Okay, thanks. Thanks to know that. Okay, for GTM, let's see. You want to sell your product or create awareness, awareness for your product, right? So what do? First step. You want to create awareness about your product. Sorry? Advertisement, okay, that's one part of marketing where through paid marketing you will be showcasing it to the people. That's fine. But what is more important? There is one thing which is more important, which is an important part of a GTM. Demographics and persona. This is by far the most important. Demographics is, who are your customers? Where are they? Which locations? Which part of the world? Which is feasible for me to go and attempt right now? Because you can't sell your product to the entire world at one go. You have to identify your niche. You have to identify your places where you have to initially start off with. And then you have to promote your products there and see the traction. And then you will expand. So your GTM also will be evolving with time. So right now, GTM is more or less, it's not like a fixed framework that you do. GTM will evolve along the journey. Like you start something, it doesn't work. Again, you go back to your GTM, you'll revise it. Okay, these locations are not working. These channels are not working. Maybe I'm using the digital channel that I'm using to promote my products is not working for me. Then what do? You feel sad just sitting at home, yeah, my channel is not working, very less likes on Instagram, no shares on Facebook, no shares on LinkedIn, no. You actually go back and refine it. Okay, what are my competitors doing? What is their marketing strategy? Are they finding customers somewhere else, which I'm missing out right now? So thorough marketing research is also required in GTM. Marketing research about marketing strategies of different companies who are similar to what you guys are doing. That is very important. Okay?
So we need to wrap up.
Sorry?
We need to wrap up.
Okay, so I think we are running short of time. Again, anything that you want to know in marketing, anything that you want to know about the entrepreneurship and programs, we are at booth number 4, Wadhwani Foundation. You guys can come there, have quick conversations with us, and then we can take it up at the booth, okay? So I'm just giving it back to Amit. He will wrap up very soon, okay? Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much for this time. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sri Harsha. Am I audible? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So we'll wrap up. I mean, in fact, he has completed with GTM, and then you're all there to launch. If you have any queries, you can ask. I think let me take that instead of getting into the much detailed workshop sort of conversation. Any question in the last 5 minutes? So how many of you are starting up now? You have a question. Go ahead, please.
Sir, as a startup, we don't think about the exit strategies. So that's where I think we are lacking. So just know more about like how to plan the exit strategies.
You should definitely plan for your exit strategies.
Yeah.
Usually, after 6 to 7 years, you can think of that could be there. But in how much, times you want to give return to your investor, that is very important. The conversation of exit strategy will come into play when you are actually discussing with your investor and maybe before signing the term sheet, right?
But at the initial level, we are not we have the visionary timelines and all the things. But at initial level, how can we make the exit strategy on base of the investment?
That will depend on your entire financial planning.
Okay.
Right. So it's very easy for me to, tell you that next 5 years this will be your growth strategy.
Yeah.
Let's say your first year revenue, there's definitely some revenue, of course, maybe 10 lakh rupees. And in the next 5 years, it's expected that you become 50 crore rupees company. That's the minimum that you're expected.
Yeah.
At what point in time? So all this will happen because there'll be lot of marketing and feedback and everything, and you would have raised several rounds of funding. The question here is, do you really want to raise capital right now? That is the point.
Okay.
Okay, so making this whole 5-year, 6-year plan will be worth, right?
Thank you.
Any other question?
Thank you so much.
Yes. So, I was doing an exercise. So, his question is, what will be the minimum price for a particular product? MVP ka minimum price kya hai? So, MVP you can use also to test what the price is. I remember long back I was doing this kind of training at a university, and we were asked to actually go and test the pricing for a particular product, and it was a chocolate sort of thing, right? And I went, it was in Jaipur, and I went to different places, got lot of criticisms at the same time, but that was a very good exercise, and by and large I collected some 20 feedback, right, and averaged out that the price of the whole chocolate was 5 rupees. Okay, it may not be the right way to do that, because I then targeted lot of different audiences. Okay, so first of all, you should be very clear that what is your minimum viable product solving, who is your target audience, what is the paying capacity that they have, and accordingly you can actually decide it. Okay, if you're launching a product in a market where people fundamentally don't have enough price to pay while they're actually in dire need of that, maybe you'll have to do something, because there is a whole cost that has gone into making the product and you can't go below that. Okay, think about it. So that's something you can actually test it out. Okay. Any other last question? Great. Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead. So there is a very nice video by Ratan Tata. You should actually go and watch. I'll not get into deep. It's related to West Bengal politics. That's one. The second part of the story is people in Tata Nano, right, who were selling right at the ground level. They were not able to communicate to their customers properly, right? They used a term called cheap. That is what I have come to know. And India does not deserve, or anybody perhaps does not deserve, a cheap product, because cheap has its own synonym, right? So they could have done it affordable and presented in that way. Okay. The product Nano came itself with a very different process, because they were preconditioned, and they were actually making a bike, a two-wheeler, which could sustain the whole family, protect them from rain, heat and everything. And after 2 years of entire, exercise, they found that, sorry, bike तो हम नहीं बना सकते, कार ही बनानी पड़ेगी, शायद उसको हम सस्ता कर सकते हैं, something like that. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Even if you have a good idea, that's what the whole discussion is. तभी तो कुछ लोग बोलते हैं ना, आइडिया 2 रुपए किलो के हिसाब से बिकता है. Very generalized statements. The whole idea is, when I say idea, it's a problem. What you're solving, the thing is, look at your customer and see if they can pay more than that. Are they really facing that problem? And are you able to address that? That's important. Okay, so execution has more weightage here. With that, thank you so much. You have been a very patient audience, right? Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the booth. Take care.